Shabada Sukha Bhaja Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu Ki Jai Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai Harinama Mahamantra Ki Jai Shri Guru Parampara Ki Jai Shri Guru Guru Varga Ki Jai Ananta Gauri Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Gauri Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. So here, Govinda Das Kaviraj, very famous author. This song is actually one of the most famous songs in Bengal. Through all the different lines and so forth, this is a very, very famous and traditional song. And I remember hearing that all the Vaishnavas were pleasantly astonished by the mood of this song. How he in these four verses, he presented the essence of a devotee's understanding. How a devotee must understand in order to attain perfection. Now you put an echo in it. It was okay before that. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. Yeah. So I just wanted to reflect a little on this song for our benefit, for my benefit. So he's praying, he's requesting, he's putting forward a request, almost like a demand. Oh mind, worship. Bhaja Hure Mana. Oh mind, you do this. This is not just a request. Not a request. He's making a demand. But at the same time, the way to deal with this brother mind is like Raghunath Das Goswami has explained in his book, Mana Siksha. Mana Siksha. Now it's not loud enough.
Oh. It's going to echo.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. So, that's good. In the Manasiksha, Raghunath Das Goswami in the first verse, how is he addressing his mind? Oh, my brother mind, he's saying. My brother. Why brother? Yeah, but there's a significance to the word brother. Because we are both here in the same body. We've been produced by the same mother. So you're actually my brother. I have to live with you. You have to live with me. So you're my brother. So he's saying, my dear brother mind, I'm falling at your feet and requesting you. Please, please give up all pride. Sada dambam hitva. Hitva means give it up. Give up pride. And in its place, now you should develop incessant rati. What is rati? Affection. Rati. Another name for bhav is also rati. Madhur. So you should develop affection and also attachment, but more you should develop incessant rati. He says apurva rati, unprecedented rati. For who? This is the first verse of Manasiksha. I'm reflecting on this first verse of Manasiksha for an introduction to this song, because this is about our mind. But in this song, it's very simplified. The Manasiksha is the instructions to the mind how to enter into the highest domain of Rupanuga and Raganuga Bhakti. Without the mind being properly directed, not possible. So, he's saying, Guru Goshte Goshtala Isha, Sujane Bhushuragane, Swamantri Shri Namni, Vraja Nava Yuva, Dvandva Sharane. These are the first two lines. So he's saying, Guru Goshte Goshtala Isha. Please develop incessant rati for Guru. First thing is Guru. Then Goshte. Goshte means, Guru Goshte means the Dham. And Goshtalaya, Goshtalaishu, means the residence of the Dham. Means the eternal associates of Krishna. In this order, Guru, Dham, associates of Krishna in the Dham, Goshtalaishu Sujane Bhushuragane. These are two more different types of persons that are in the Dham. Sujan means Madhyam Adhikaris, even of other sampradayas who live in the Dham. Sujane Bhushuragane. Bhushurgan means lords of the earth. Bhu Sura, like suras. Like demigods are called suras, right? So Bhu means the earth. Bhu Suragane. That means, literally it means like the lords or the gods of the earth. Who are they? Those brahmanas who are following Varnashram Dharma, who live in the Dham, you know, we can see them, the pandas and so forth. This is their place. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he has another book called Vraja Vilas Stava. It's something like, well over 200 verses, where he's glorifying every single entity in the Dham, because he lived in Brajadam and Radhakund. So he's glorifying in that way. Can you hear in the kitchen?
He's got speakers.
So, Swamantre means your mantra. Swa mantra. What is that? Your Diksha mantras. Swamantra. Swamantre Shri Namni. That means Harinam. Mahamantra. Shri Namni. And finally, Vraja Nava Yuva Dvandva Sharane. That means the divine youthful couple of Braja. Radha and Krishna. Braja Nava Yuva Dvandva Sharane. The complete shelter of the youthful divine couple. So that's the first slok of the Manasiksha. But here on a very much more basic level, very, very beginning even level, anyone that hears this song and thinks about it, because Govinda Das is telling us this is our predicament. This is our unfortunate condition of life and predicament. So, to begin, he's first of all saying, my dear mind, please, you should always worship the lotus feet of Sri Nandanandana. So this is very, very much a Braj song, because the son of Maharaj Nanda is only in Braj. There is no other object of worship than this personality. So you should worship his lotus feet, because his lotus feet are what? Abhaya. What does that mean? Abhaya. You know Srila Prabhupada's birth name? What does that mean? Oh, you don't know. Without fear. Abhaya.
I knew it, I just forgot.
Okay. Now we're reminding. Now don't forget. Abhaya Charanaravinda. Actually, his name was Abhay Charan, and when he received initiation from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he added Aravinda. Abhay Charanaravinda. And then later, in his householder years, after initiation, Diksha, everything, and he began to write articles and so forth, then the Vaishnava community awarded him the title Bhaktivedanta. That was well before he took sannyas. So he was called Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta. In the Gaudiya Math, you know, there were many titles given and names awarded by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati for specific meritorious activities, service, or qualities, particular qualities. So like this song is telling the mind, oh, my dear mind, please worship the lotus feet of Sri Nandanandana, which bring all fearlessness. You will become fearless if you are always worshipping the lotus feet of Nandanandana Krishna. Now, he says that look at what opportunity we now have. Look at what our situation is. We've attained Durlabha Manava. Durlabha Manava means very rare human birth. It's rare. Most people don't know that, of course. In the modern Kali Yuga, they have no idea that they've gone through millions of lives in different species, and they've been wandering in material universes for billions and trillions of years. But the human form, we've probably had so many times before, there's no calculating, no way of knowing. Probably millions and millions of times we've had a human body, but we didn't use it properly. And what happens if someone doesn't use the human body properly and they're living adharmically? What's the result of that?
Go back to the 8 million point species.
Yeah, depending on the person's karma. Depends. Have to go all the way back down. Huh?
Down to animal.
What?
Just down to animal at least.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, to arrive at an understanding that I have this opportunity. This is a very important realization for any devotee to have. If they don't understand this, they haven't gone very deep in self-realization. Because we always have to understand this, that we have this human birth, this human body, which is very rare. Huh? You ever heard that example? We used to give it, I think, in the early days of the tortoise.
Oh,
Yeah? Can you tell?
To achieve a human birth is as rare as a tortoise swimming underneath the water, and it just happens to come up at a time to surface. There's a plank of wood that has a knot hole in it.
Yes.
And he comes up, his head goes through it.
Right. He takes his breath through that hole. Okay? Well, he could have come up at any other time, but there was a log floating across a plank, and it had a hole, and he stuck his nose through that hole. That's how rare. To get a human birth. Now, we added one more feature to that analogy, because the next line says, Durlabha Manava janama satsange. Not only is it rare to get manava birth, janma, manava janma, but in that human birth to get satsanga. What does satsanga mean? Yes, it means satsanga means to meet pure devotees of the Lord, and in their association to practice bhakti. So satsanga is even more rare. How many persons get the opportunity for satsanga? We can see there's 7 point something billion humans right now. And how many of them are getting satsanga? Probably, yeah. Very tiny, tiny number. Tiny percentage. Almost as tiny as our dear friend that we keep hearing about every day.
You mean the one with the crown on his head?
You know that one that starts with the letter C?
Chaitanya.
Right. So, it's rare. Percentages, very rare. So, janama satsange. So what happens if we get the human body, we get the satsanga? He says, taraho e bhava sindhure. That means, with this human birth and the association of saintly persons, we can cross over this ocean. Bhava Sindhu means the ocean of this material existence. That's called Bhava Sindhu. So, taraha means to cross. Bhava Sindhure. What's so much there in this one verse? Now suppose that we all sitting here, we never knew anything about Krishna. We can think, like, what if I was really one of those people that has been wandering around the universe, got a human body, but didn't know anything about Krishna, didn't know anything about that I'm not this body, that I'm an eternal conscious soul, I'm indestructible, and my karma, my actions are causing my current conditions. What if we were in that situation? All of us have been in that situation, in one life or another, right? But in this life, we've met sadhu sangha. And if we can really truly understand what is the opportunity afforded to us in this very present time, well, then we can take advantage. We can take full advantage. How to do that? That's what this song is about. How to take full advantage. How to gain real, proper understanding. So in the next verse he's saying, he's pointing out, look, my dear mind, Sita atapa bata barishana e dina jamani jagire. He says, look at what you've endured. Look at what you've been enduring all the time, life after life. You've been suffering the pains of cold, heat, wind, and rain. Even sleepless, going sleepless at night. Vipale sevanu kripana durajana. You've served uselessly. Vipala means no fruit, useless. You've uselessly served what kind of persons? Kripanas, durajanas. That means miserly and wicked persons. You've done that. And what have you gotten in return for that? For all of this, having to tolerate and having to go through so much suffering and unpleasant situation, what have you gotten? Chapala sukha. What does chapala mean? Flickering, not steady, Chapala sukha, that means flickering happiness. And how much of that? Chapala sukha lava. Lava means just a tiny little fraction. You've undergone so much suffering, and what have you gotten? Chapala sukha lava. Just a few moments of so-called happiness. Look. E dana jovana putra parijana. That means what you got, what you have. Oh, all of your dhana, whatever money, whatever wealth you've accumulated, your youthfulness. Youthful means yovana. You know, some persons are thinking, oh, I'm a young person. I remember when I was young, sitting on a bus, going somewhere, and then looking at all the old people and thinking, yeah, I'm not like them. I'm young. But you will soon be old, you know. So the thing is that your wealth, your youth, your putra. Putra means your sons, your parijana, all of your relatives. The question is this: what assurance does all of that hold for you? Ite kiyache paratitire. It means, what assurance can you really get from this? Okay, you've got this now, but is this something that you can really bank on? No. All of it is temporary. All of it is completely temporary. So, and not only is all of that temporary, but your very life, your very life itself is like what? Kamala Dala Jala.
Drop of water on a lotus.
Yeah, a lotus leaf has a drop of water. And Prabhupada said it's tilting. And at any moment it can roll off. Right? That's how how do you say, how firmly grounded you are in your current life. It's just like a drop of water on a lotus flower, a lotus leaf. Can roll off at any moment. Bhaja hud haripada. What to do? What to do? What's the solution to this whole situation that has just been described here in these two verses? Your chapala sukha, your tolerating cold, heat, rain, day after day after day. Your uselessly miserly and wicked people. And your attempt to accumulate and make a stationary position unshakable. What's the solution to all this? There is. Very good solution. Bhaja hum haripada nitire. Very, very constantly you should serve Hari. Haripada, the lotus feet of Hari. Serve Hari. O Bhajahure Mana, Sri Nanda Nandana, Abhaya Charanarvindare. So at the end, last verse, telling, do these 9 activities. Always do them. Shravanam Kirtanam, Smarana Vandana, Padaseva, Asyare, Pujana, Sakijana, Atma Nivedana, Govinda Das Abhilasare. So he's saying, oh, this is my desire. This is my cherished aspiration. This Govinda Das, that always I will be absorbed in these 9 processes of bhakti. Hearing, chanting, prayers, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, becoming a servant, dasya, pujana, archan, worshipping the Lord, sakhi jana. Sakhi, you know what that means? In friendship, in sakya. We can think about Krishna like that, because it's true. He himself is telling us in the Bhagavad Gita that actually I am the well-wishing friend in the heart of every living entity. Well-wishing friend. What is it? Bhoktaram jakya tapasam sarva loka maheshwar suhridam sarva bhutanam. Suhridam sarva bhutanam. In all living entities' hearts, I'm the well-wishing friend of them. So we can, in our devotional life, we can also come to that mood of, oh, Krishna is my friend. He's my only friend. And that is also bhakti, to feel and to think towards the Lord in that way. Pujana Sakhi Jana. And finally, Atma Nivedanam. We were talking yesterday about surrender. What is surrender? What is the meaning? Well, in the 9 processes, Atma Nivedanam is mentioned as one of the limbs of bhakti. And what does that mean? Atma and Nivedanam. What does Atma mean?
Self.
What does self mean?
Me.
Body, mind, and spirit.
Yes. Your mind and your internal identity of being an eternal soul. All these have to be nivedanam. What does it mean? What does nivedan mean? Huh? Yes. To offer oneself, always, to Krishna. Mind, body, and soul.
Well, it seems like this Sakya seems to be, would be better to be more primary for someone like myself who's not very advanced as a sadhya focus instead of trying to think about or anything higher than that.
Well, first of all, in answer to that, it's a good question.
To start.
It's a good question. It's a good question. Actually, even before that, we have to have dasya. We have to have dasya. That's why it's mentioned in the list. Dasyare. Padasevana dasyare. That's the most elementary that we have to understand, that we are the servants of Krishna. As our mood naturally develops in bhakti and our attachment to Krishna, then the mood of more intimacy will also naturally come. No, it is true what you're saying. That it is true what you're saying, that if someone is in the neophyte stage, it is not very appropriate to always be desiring to attain manjari bhav. Now, that's a big topic in itself, if we even start to get into that. But just in very brief, we cannot force this. And also, we should be cautious, not trying to intrude into that area while we still have so many material, lusty desires even. But we had entire classes about this already. When I was reading, you remember, I was reading the Venu Gita introduction, and Gurudev was talking about when to hear, how to hear. So we're safe in hearing, but in our personal practices, we also have to pray to the Lord according to our level, right? That can be a faraway goal, but it should not be erased as the goal. This is what Gurudev was trying to give to the whole world of Vaishnavas is that they were putting up a partition practically, that no, you can't touch that, you can't go there. And that was much too extreme, done out of immaturity and done out of, Sangha, from elevated Vaishnavas. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Gita Hari Shri Shri Radha Devi Hari Ji Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopal Ji Ki Jai Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Itadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tada Bhaktaya Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Yes, so this is the thing, that we should not be imitating. The imitation is not a good thing. Imitation of a higher level than you are on will end up causing you to fall down. It definitely will happen that way. Many, many warnings are there by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and everyone. But yet, we have this songbook with many different songs, and we have to also choose appropriately. And when we are in the association of someone who has a higher level than us, and the songs are being sung, genuinely sincere, not trying to project that I'm on some higher level, that is false. That is not good. That's duplicitous. And duplicity is not the mood of a Vaishnava. Saralata, simple-hearted. But we want to develop an aspiration. We want this. It will be the most helpful thing for us in our spiritual life. Even if someone has not been for decades practicing, but they've been striving, they should avail themselves, this is the thing, to avail themselves of some higher association than yourself. And if someone is so fortunate to be associated with Rasik Vaishnava, then this is the greatest boon possible. And yeah, still, you're going to have to progress. You might be in his association and hearing these things, which is very beneficial, because like today I was hearing the word training when I was listening to Prabhupada. He's using the word training about, like, in the Varnashram system, there's training for be a Brahmana, how to be a Kshatriya. There's training. He was talking about that topic. But then he also, I could see that Prabhupada was replacing the word samskara, because he mentioned the word samskar, and then he just said training. So what is samskar? Samskar, we've heard many times, it means an impression. But these impressions are created by training. By training. You develop impressions. Even in material sense, you gain experience. As you get older, you go through so many experiences, and you're trained, you see. This is a training. So everybody is carrying these different in this life that they're developing from the previous life. So this is necessary in the realm of bhakti, is to develop samskars. And if we have higher association, that is the most favorable thing for developing these samskaras. But we cannot just rest on that. Oh, I have had so much association with exalted pure devotees. If you don't follow, then how much benefit did you derive? Certainly you got some benefit, but it is not possible to derive the full benefit of association with very high-level sadhus without applying it in your life. No, it is not possible. So, Durlabha Manava Janama Satsange. Very rare. if we know how rare this is, and we're starting to try to follow it, and we're feeling, yes, I'm following, I should straighten out, and I should not continue to act in ways that are deviant from the instructions that have been given. I should do this, I must do this. And when we begin to live in that way, then we can feel, that's where the conviction comes from. Application and then experience. Understand this point? Conviction. When you're convinced, how convinced are we that this is the ultimate attainment, it is the ultimate thing to aspire for, everything, ultimate of the ultimate. Are we that convinced about it?
Yes.
We should be convinced, but we should also have the evidence to prove it. So we may have our own perception of things, but our perception is never complete because we have not come to the higher levels. Those who are on those levels, then when you see them, they're absorbed 24 hours. 24 hours. So that higher sadhusanga is necessary. Or questions in this regard?
Yeah, when there were complaints to Prabhupada devotees who were trying to conceive themselves Gopi Bhakti, he did warn that person complaining that, oh, it's not that we were boycotting the gopis.
Yes.
He used that word.
Right. You know, that was a very particular time, place, and circumstance. Prabhupada, he was 75, I remember, in LA. And, you know, Prabhupada knew that he was not going to be very much longer. And he had created a movement, a big machine for distributing Krishna consciousness, his books, everything. Also, Prabhupada certainly knew that these persons, these younger devotees, of whom many of them were like 1 or 2 year devotees only at that stage, you know. So he was stressing, what should be your real focus? Purify. But he also said, it's not that we're boycotting devotees, okay? This is going to be essential. This is going to be, you know, and after some time, then it was all arranged. Actually, Prabhupada himself arranged it when he was leaving this planet by inviting Gurudev, you know, and then also that, requesting Srila Sridhar Maharaj. I mean, Prabhupada knew that there's going to come a stage in the very near future where these higher topics are going to have to be more deeply understood. He gave everything in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's really amazing when we read it nowadays and we see how everything is there. So yes, the process, that's why Acharya is needed. That's why Siksha Guru is needed. That's why Sadhu Sangha is needed, who are more advanced than ourselves. Because then all of these topics, all of these subject matters, they're going to be presented properly, proper time, place, circumstance. I mean, even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he had very great limitations to certain sections of his disciples. He divided them into sections. It's not that they were all on the same level. He had a system which he called Upadeshak system. You know what that means? It means teacher. Instructors, teachers. And he had like 3 levels of, like a disciple who would come to a stage where they have some knowledge, some understanding. And he gave them the title Upadeshak, right? Upadeshak. And then those who became a little more advanced, he called them Maha Upadeshak. And then those who were on the highest level, persons who were very, very scholarly, advanced, then he called them Mahopadeshak. That's 2 Mahas. Maha Upadeshak. Maha Upadeshak. So, and he also had at various times restrictions not to read certain books. Don't read the Antya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita at different times in the disciples' advancement. So it's not that all were on the same level. See, when Srila Gurudev came now, I mean, initially his intention, when he came to the West, his target audience was who?
Prabhupada's disciples.
Exactly. Prabhupada's disciples, who at that time, 1996, from let's say 1970, most of the disciples would have at least been devotees for 20 years or longer. And they would have been chanting, right? So Gurudev's target audience was he targeted that because Prabhupada requested him. And he admitted this many times, that he very much has a very special mood towards Prabhupada disciples. Why? And he said this directly, because Swamiji requested me, you see. So that was his direct service to Srila Prabhupada. But in the course of doing that, all the other jivas are floating up to the shore as Gurudev is, traversing the earth and purifying everywhere by his lotus feet and his Hari Katha. And so many jivas came, thousands and thousands of them. So Gurudev also had to take this position of Jagat Guru, of being world acharya and accepting tens of thousands of disciples. So but Srila Gurudev, his mission was to give these things. And that's why he didn't have to do what Srila Prabhupada had to do in terms of, giving elementary steps that the devotees should follow, even though there were many new devotees. Okay? Yes, in his lectures, how many of the audience were Prabhupada disciples? And how many of the audience were older devotees? And then what section of the audience were practically brand new people? So Gurudev was faced with that situation as well, but nevertheless, he still delivered. And when we look at the repertoire, when we look at what Gurudev presented over those periods of years, and there was somewhat of a shift actually. He himself told us. He said, when I first came, in the very beginning, I thought that I will be able to present all these topics, Braj Bhakti and everything. But now I am seeing I will also have to cut jungles. You know that term, cutting jungles. He used to say that our Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, he had to spend most of his time cutting jungles. You see? What does that mean, to cut jungles,
Jungles grow fast.
No, but what does it mean in terms of...
Cutting a pathway to get through it.
Cut through the Mayavad.
Well, what is it talking about? What is the jungle?
Yeah.
Misconceptions.
Huh?
Misconceptions.
Yes.
Limited.
Vegetarianism.
Just even the basic human activities and sinful activities and the addiction of the West for so many mundane sense gratification, and the mundane scientists. That was a big section of the jungle, was the scientists, which Prabhupada was constantly going to war with, on every morning walk, for a certain time period, and he wanted that to be a major message, because that's one of the problems people have in the West. I was just talking today that, Prabhupada, when he made his predictions about the future in 1975, morning walks in Mayapur, Third World War topic, and Prabhupada mentioned there that one of the benefits that will come after the war, because Prabhupada is literally talking about the war. The war will come. Bombs will be used, this, that. So he was saying that after this, he said, the preaching our movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the preaching will be very, very good. The people will be very, very receptive. Now, there are so many distractions that they have, and so many addictions, and I mean, you could write a whole big long article about it. You know, what are the disadvantages of the present day? You know, where the people are so much addicted to sense gratification and they don't even want to come and sit down and hear. Okay? So the situation, the very favorable situation will be created by all that's going to happen. And that's Mahaprabhu's plan. You know, and one of the things that Prabhupada said specifically was that the people's faith in the scientists, it will be shattered. Their faith will be shattered. You see? And the people will understand that what calamity has been brought on the earth by all of this, you know. Oh man, we could probably just sit here for the next 3 hours and talk about that, which I'm definitely not going to do. But this is the thing, you know, everything's going on. Every movement of every atomic particle is going on by the will of the Lord. And that's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said there is no need for a reformer. That whole article, I read it one day. This is something you have to deeply meditate on, each sentence of that small 2-paragraph excerpt from one of his lectures. Because there's a perfect reformer. Everything's going on perfectly. The reformer is making everything happen according to his will. You know, so that's why a devotee can see everything as good. Krishna, Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, Krishna is all good. He's all good, absolute. Absolute, all good. You know, there's nothing bad. The other day, I don't know, I mentioned this to some, I forget who I was telling, but the other day, when I was listening to Prabhupada talking in Hawaii, and it was a very early visit, maybe like 69 in Hawaii, maybe even his first time there. And you know, it was a small group, you could tell. Prabhupada opened up for questions. And one girl asked some question. It was hard to hear her question, but it was pertaining to, well, you know, if God is all good, then why is there so much bad and so much suffering and like this in the world? If God is the creator of everything, why did he create and there's so much suffering? And then Prabhupada's first initial response was, why not? This is the first step in his answering the question. Why not? And then he used this example. I'd never heard him use this example before that. He said to this girl, he said, so you are a very nice girl, very nice young girl, but from you comes urine. But does that mean that you are bad? That from you comes stool and urine? And he actually kept repeating it in a number of different ways.
Wow, she got a real good session there.
You see? So Krishna is all good. And then Prabhupada gave other examples, like, for example, like, you know, why does the prison house exist? Why does the government have to build a prison house? Is that the government's fault? No. It is the fault of the citizens who don't want to follow, and they cause trouble for others, so they have to be locked away. You know? But it's not the fault of the government. It's the fault of the criminal. So like that. So the thing is that the jivas are being given a chance within the material creation. We talked about this the other day when we talked about the 3 Vishnus and all of that. to act independently. And Krishna doesn't take that away. But he nudges the jivas. The Maya potency is the corrector, right? Maya Devi is corrector. The ones, remember how Prabhupada used to say another meaning of the word Maya is what? Mercy. Remember that? Another meaning of the word Maya is mercy. It's actually Krishna's greatest mercy that he arranges in this realm where the jivas have this desire to turn away and be independent. They're the center of enjoyment, and they're the masters, and everybody should serve them. That is the mood of the jivas in this world. So Krishna, his Maya potency automatically does his will, because his Shakti is completely connected with him. Krishna doesn't even have to order her. Any of his Shaktis, they're acting automatically, all of his Shaktis, to fulfill Krishna's desire, Krishna's will.
So, mercy because it would help us to experience separation for reunion.
Well,
separation and reunion. Same dynamic.
I was to say, make us suffer so we realize that we don't want to enjoy separation.
Yeah. Why do you slap your boy sometimes?
Because he's rascal.
But why do you slap him? Are you being cruel?
Just because I love him, actually.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. Any love has to have some
Tough love.
discipline has to be there. Otherwise, and even Nanda Maharaj told this, remember, in that conversation? After Krishna lifted Govardhan hill, then they were in Nandagaon, and all of the cowherd men, they had their meeting. It's called Nanda Baitak, sitting place, where they have a council and they begin to talk. And what do they talk about? They talk about what will be beneficial for Krishna. So in that meeting, the cowherd men, they're all discussing, and they had a particular concern that they wanted to express to Nanda Maharaj. So they started telling Nanda Maharaj that, we've been noticing that your Krishna, he's doing all the time very extraordinary things. And then they started to tell, when he was barely a baby, he couldn't even turn himself over. He killed this gigantic Rakshashi, witch, Putana, and then Trinavarta, and they started telling, and then they said, and just recently, he just lifted this Govardhan hill and held it up for 7 days. This is not the activity of an ordinary human being. He must be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or something. Right? They're saying, like,
Some empowered personality.
what they actually said. Maybe he's Bhagavan, like this. So then Nanda Maharaj, he looked at all of them, and he started chuckling. He said, just see. Now the old saying, now I've seen, this is proving the old saying that for the cowherd men, their milk teeth only come in when they're 80 years of age. In other words, they don't mature in their understanding very quickly. Look, I know this boy from his birth, okay? And let me tell you, he has such and such behaviors. Like, for example, when he wants his butter and he wants his roti, he will lay down and kick his arms and legs and scream. Is that the behavior of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And then he said, and why does this person, this son of mine, he goes stealthily, sneaking to the houses of the Brijvasis and the Gopis and stealing. Is this stealing? Is that the symptom of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So he started to give example after example. And as he was saying this, then all the cowherd men, they all, yeah, of course he's not the Supreme, like this, you know. And then at the end, Nanda Maharaj said, but one thing is that when we did the name-giving ceremony and Gargamuni came, at that time he mentioned that according to his astrology chart in previous life, he was a very empowered personality. So he also said that this Narayan. So maybe sometimes the Supreme Lord intercedes. This boy, Krishna, is empowered by him momentarily, like this. So then after that, all the cowherd boys, they completely agreed. Because what they were trying to do was they were trying to tell Nanda Maharaj, we don't think that you should be disciplining this boy and treating him roughly. He may be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So then Nanda Maharaj said, look, even if he's the Supreme Personality of God, he's come as my son. And I'm going to train him and rectify him so that he grows up properly. And they all agreed. All the cowherd men happily agreed. And that was it for any discussion about Krishna being Bhagavan. So that's the Brijavasi's mood.
Well, his argument, this is my dharma.
Yeah, well, not just his dharma. I'm doing this boy. So my point was about, discipline. There has to be discipline. If there's love, then there has to be discipline. Otherwise, it's just very weak, not real love. But if love is strong, the stronger that the love is, the more concerned you are for the individual. And if you see the individual going off and going in a bad direction, you are very, very much desiring to correct that as the superior, as the guardian of that person, of that child.
I was just telling my son did something recently. I just gave him that kind of exact speech. I said, I know I'm sounding mean, but I was like, I'm doing this because I love you and I don't want to see you do the wrong thing. And I don't, to what level he understands, I don't know, but I also, in regards to that, my question would be, is at what level does that, as a duty as a father, mix with just being over-attached, though? Because it is love-based, but then there's an attachment of if I do a bad job as a father or as a mother or whatever, as a parent, then he makes me look bad, in the sense that he won't, his success or failure, and that could be applied to anybody, success or, but success or failure as a son. And then, so these are some sentiments that as a father it goes through my head. So I'm just wondering, at what point does it become, I don't know if it's a question you can actually answer, just an inner thought process in the head.
Well, like we were talking yesterday out here, how everything is actually really, it traces back to your own self-interest, So that's kind of naturally there. Parents are going to feel very great pride. Even the gopis are saying that about Krishna's flute. In the Venu Gita, it's come from the bamboos, and the bamboos are growing in the water of the Yamuna. So in this way, the parents of the bamboo, when they see that the bamboo has come as a flute in Krishna's lips, they feel very great pride. So this is normal and natural for a parent to feel pride, and also to feel pain when they see that their dependent is, doing activities that will not bring auspiciousness, and suffering will accrue. But at the same time, as devotees, we have to have knowledge. We have to have detachment. That's necessary for us in all phases. We have to have the transcendental focus. And knowledge that I'm temporarily in this role, but this is my dharma, that I have to do this. And at a certain point, that jiva is going to do as they want. You see? They're going to do as they want. And in a lot of cases, they'll do quite different than the parent desires for them to do, and even harm themselves and so forth. But what can be done? We're not the controllers. We only have them for a very short period in which we try to give them the best impressions that we are able to give under the circumstances, right? But they also have their own samskaras. They're bringing into this life millions of other samskaras from other lives and tendencies and anarthas and the whole thing. But nevertheless, Srila Prabhupada used to say how he talked about how the young children in the Gurukul particularly, that they're like a clean slate, he said. You know, children are naturally like you can write anything you want. It's a clean slate and you can write what you want on it. So the impressions, this is the duty of parents, is to give the circumstances in which the child will get the best impressions possible for them, you know. But now we also see that it's different because of smartphones and technology and all of that. That is a very big thing which may be removed by this coming era for the human society, because Prabhupada did say that after there would be not the same level of technology that is there right now. There would be some, but not like now. So anyway, the best impressions is hearing and chanting, isn't it? If the children can hear and chant, then they're going to remember, and they'll automatically develop a very nice tendency. I see in the kids here, they're also very, very nice, inclined. Some more, some less, but they're all devotees, they're all inclined. We have many veteran parents here, like Gaurangi, so raised so many children, you know, so it's a very wonderful phenomena that we're part of, actually, and that our children, they're the next generation, and you know, they're all very special souls, special jivas, and we have to do our best. But in actuality, we are not really the controller of the outcome, because ultimately they are going to make their own decisions. But by showing them, you know, genuine love and affection and giving them these, they'll remember that, even if they go off, even if they're deviating and going way off. But they'll have that stability that they know, oh, my parents, they tried to do the best for me. They're my well-wishers, like that, you know. Role. But the ultimate role is that we ourselves have to become the eternal servant of Krishna. That has to be our main focus, daily, every single day. That's what your bhajan, that's what your sadhana is all about. That's your personal relationship with Krishna, doing bhakti directly to Krishna. And, you know, if that's not there, then how are you going to pass that on to others? You know, you have to have it yourself. You have to be practicing yourself. Simple.
Maharaj, you heard a statement, I think it came from India, the Buddhists took it as detachment is a good thing, but one should not become attached to that as well.
Attached to detachment?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it sounds like a Buddhist thing.
Yeah, it's a happy medium, but like to be attached but detached.
Sounds like Buddhist logic,
Yeah.
the sound of one hand clapping.
Upendra once brought up to Prabhupada the Taoist saying of Lao Tzu. He said, he who knows does not speak, and he who speaks does not know. Prabhupada said, well, whoever said that, then we should reject it.
Typical Prabhupada. Okay. Gaur Premanande, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Rupa Guru Varga ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.